Hello, and welcome back to the Dutiful Future Show. With me today, I have my good friend and fake expert on American politics, Joel Ramlill. Hello.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry, I have a bit of a cold, so...
That's okay. Who are you, Joel? What are you here to talk about today?
Well, I'm a second-year economics and politics student at the University of Warwick, and Hugh and I have had many drunk conversations about US politics, and so we thought that...
Very few sober.
Very few sober. And we thought, hey, this would be a great idea to bring it to everyone else.
If you can't hear me, I'm currently cracking open a 12-pack of beer. It's about to get very serious very quickly. No, so as you've probably guessed so far, me and Joel here are obviously two big fans of American politics. Today we have a range of three different things we're going to be talking about. Segment one is basically a catch-up of what's been happening in the Democrat primaries. First three contests have gone on, the debates, blah, 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 all that sort of thing. Segment two is candidate-based, so it's who we like, just kind of a general overview of which candidates and kind of discuss them, what they kind of believe, that sort of thing. And then going over who's dropped out so far and who we miss the most and who we really don't miss. A candidate in memoriam, if you will. And then part three is the fun part, which is your president, what do you do? And that'll be posed to both of us. What would we be doing as our top priorities?
I'm sure there'll be a lot of crossover on that one.
I'm sure there will be a lot of crossover, but there's always a few things where there'll be like, a little bit of spicy contention. So tune in.
And for those who, well, no one can see, but Hugh is wearing a Bernie jumper.
I don't know what you're talking about, Joel.
Yeah, okay, so...
This is audio,
This
Joel.
is completely unbiased.
I don't know what you're talking about, Joel. I'm not wearing it. For all they know, don't make me tell them about the Bloomberg 2020 tattoo you have on your forehead. Right? Yeah? I thought we had an agreement on this.
Yeah,
right? I would bring up the
Bloomberg face tats.
Exactly.
How cool is that?
Not very, Joel.
No, I know.
Sorry. Okay, diving straight in.
Okay.
We've had the first three primary caucuses gone on so far. Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada. They gave pretty interesting results. Fun fact for everyone. Bernie Sanders is the first candidate in American history, Republican or Democrat, to win the popular vote in the first three contests.
Oh, that's interesting.
First ever, yeah. So,
but he didn't win Iowa.
In some weird number mess-arounds. We'll get into that.
Sure.
So yeah, essentially so far we had the first three contests, and right now it's looking like Bernie's in a pretty strong position.
Yeah.
What would you say so far, Joel, about sort of the positions and where we are and what's going forwards?
Well, I would say as we go into South Carolina, which is the next open primary. Is it an open primary or caucus?
I think caucuses are pretty much done now. I think it's an open primary.
Okay, so it's an open primary. That means that anyone in the state can vote, including Republicans.
Yeah.
It's open to everyone. And in fact, the Republican base has come out and said that everyone should be voting for Bernie Sanders because they think that he would be an easier fight against Trump. So as we go into South Carolina, there is a clear frontrunner in Bernie Sanders. Joe Biden will be staking his entire rest of the primary campaign on South Carolina and his ability to energize basically African-American voters around his Obama halo. And
Obama halo.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. That is Joe Biden in a nutshell. He has
stale aftertaste of the Obama.
He hasn't really done much in terms of the primaries. Yeah. People expected a lot more of him, and I think lots of his thunder has gone to Pete Buttigieg in the centrist wing of the party.
I would say generally right now for South Carolina, if Biden needs to not only win, but win
decisively.
He needs to win because it's basically his state. I mean, the fact that Bernie Sanders is ahead in some polls in South Carolina is phenomenal. Yeah. Normally it's just between them, but if Bernie wins South Carolina, that seems like
I think that's the end of Biden.
That seems like pretty much locked up. Okay, cool, Bernie's nominee.
But actually, that might not be the best thing for Bernie Sanders to win South Carolina, because if Biden drops out now because of lacking South Carolina, then the centrist vote will start to go towards one candidate. And as soon as the centrist vote starts to move towards one candidate, that could have bad implications for Bernie Sanders.
You could say that if Bernie wins South Carolina, there's obviously the standard concept in American sort of primary process, which is just the leader bias. People tend to start supporting someone when they're doing better. Yeah. So
of course.
And after first four contests won, for very different demographics in all different forms, people, incomes, in every single form. If he wins South Carolina as well, that is the DNC's. That's normally the DNC's like, okay, great, that's it, we're done. If normally they win 3 out of the 4, that is all right. Cool, we've got our front runner.
Yeah,
as
but
points out there are issues.
But Bernie Sanders isn't a normal DNC candidate establishment figure.
Very true. Very true.
He's not even a Democrat. So let's.
Well, I guess if you define Democrat as like.
Well, he's an independent. He's not a Democrat.
He is a Democrat. He's part of the Democrat Party. He's just their very progressive wing.
Then why doesn't he say he's a Democrat?
Because he's not a Democrat establishment, Joel.
Oh, sure.
He's not a Democrat establishment boy.
Oh, wow.
In the same way that if the establishment of the Democrat Party are more willing to have Bloomberg identify as one of their own,
yeah, fair.
Then I think it's pretty fine to say,
that's a good point.
If they're fine with a literal Republican, taking over, God, so who do you think is the main challenge right now? Because obviously we kind of accepted that Bernie's in a very strong front position. Who do you think is going to be the main people to sort of push that line and sort of be the ones who might be able to challenge him going forwards?
I think that it's kind of too early to say as to who will be Bernie's main opponent. If Pete Buttigieg somehow does well on Super Tuesday, which I doubt he will do because he's running out of funding. He's poured a lot of money into Iowa. He's put a lot of money into New Hampshire. And if he had won New Hampshire, I would have said Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah,
but he didn't.
He didn't do very well.
He didn't. Well, he did okay.
Okay.
He managed to get 20% out of Bernie Sanders' 2016 run.
He did badly in Nevada. That was it. He did very badly.
Well, he was never going to do well in Nevada because he has a problem getting support from ethnic minorities, and Nevada is
Spice hasn't offered you a job yet, Joel. You're slightly more tan than Mike. That's like, you're about the most progressive, you're the most person in his entire campaign.
Yeah, exactly. And you know me, I do quite like Pete Buttigieg's campaign.
Joel's a Pete Buttigieg, a stan over there.
I think that he's a good candidate, but I'd say you can't ignore Michael Bloomberg, even with his horrible debate in Nevada. He's got so much money to burn through, and it's really a battle over the airwaves. As long as he manages to control the airwaves and his message and his ads dominate the discussion, as opposed to the outcomes of the debates, then we'll still be seeing Michael Bloomberg late on in this process.
I think a lot of people, what I've been seeing of people have been discussing around Mike Bloomberg is that if he doesn't really break through, they wouldn't be surprised if his pro-Bloomberg ads turn into Bernie attack ads. To try and tank him and bring him down with him, I guess. Because I would imagine if I was Bloomberg and I was as selfish as he is, I would probably think, I'd rather have 4 more years of Trump than I would with Bernie. My taxes will stay down. I know stop and frisk might even be a thing.
I don't think that Bloomberg. I mean, I wouldn't say he's a nice person, but I wouldn't say he's as selfish as you make him out to be. I think he does. I don't think anyone spends nearly $500 million of their own money just to reduce their tax rate at the end, because I think that's counterintuitive.
Well, I think someone would spend that much money to try and become the president in an oligarchical system to prevent someone from raising his taxes and to prevent a dismantling of status quo systems.
Sure.
I think that's exactly... I would say personally, I think Bloomberg's running entirely to
reduce his own tax rate.
No, not obviously.
Because then he'd be happy with Trump. He loves Trump.
I think he probably is.
No, I don't.
They've been friends for a while.
Oh, friends is a strong term.
The same way that Hillary Clinton. I'm sure that the same way that Bloomberg and Jeffrey Epstein were friends for a while. In the Black Book. He was in the Black Book, by the way. Did you hear about that?
No.
Bloomberg several times is in Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book.
Well, so were the Clintons, so was Trump.
Yes.
So it's like...
Yes.
Well, let's not go on to Jeffrey Epstein right now. I mean, that's...
Excuse me, it's very relevant.
I think that that'll start going into a bit of conspiracy theory
the good
area.
Side.
Yeah.
Well, obviously right now, so you've kind of pointed out Buttigieg as potentially Trump, Bernie's main challenger. What do you feel about... because I think Biden's sort of dropping off right now.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Warren, in terms of polling, her votes when she slightly increases, as she's been doing recently, her increases don't come from Bernie supporters; they come entirely from
centrists.
Biden. Yeah. So could you see her abandoning her lifelong morals and
No, I don't see her doing that. I see her campaigning from where she's from, where she's comfortable. I think that. If she flip-flops now, it's too late in the process, and Donald Trump, even if she won the nomination in the end, which, let's face it, at this point is extremely unlikely for Elizabeth Warren, Donald Trump will attack her on her flip-flopping, whereas he stayed relatively consistent in his own weird way to his own weird ideology. And I mean, she's going to get bullied in a debate anyway by him. He's got so much dirt on her. Pocahontas.
She can be very good in a debate, but I think against Trump, she has too many of those sort of embarrassing faux pas, I guess. Things like the Native American thing.
Yeah.
Things like, stabbing Bernie in the back several times, and those sort of things like that they would play very badly.
Yeah. So who would you think will do best in debate versus Donald Trump?
Out of all candidates around now, I think Bernie. I think
Bernie would do well.
I think Bernie has the strong counter to Trump, because the worst thing you can do against Trump is play his game.
And being consistent, because he will exploit it.
Those are the two things, because his game, he's good at his game. Like, obviously, I really don't like him. I hate his policies, but he's really good at basically trolling. He's good at messing with someone. He's good at showing, he's good at inconsistencies. He's just really good at being funny and messing with people.
Yeah.
And what Bernie's really good at is when someone tries to mess with him that way, he just polish it. He just goes, "All right, that's really funny. Here, Medicare for all, boom, boom, bang.
Yeah.
American people want this, all these horrible things." He's not going to be a Hillary Clinton or, I guess like a Kamala Harris or a Klobuchar, where they just go, "Look at the bad man.
Yeah.
Look at him."
We've learned that the American people don't really care about that anymore.
Yeah,
they voted for him. They know he was a bad man. They still voted for him. And that's what's happened there. I also think that Pete Buttigieg would do well in debate, because he would show a very different side. He wouldn't stoop down to his level. He'd be the presidential figure that lots of centrist, Republican-leaning, Democratic-leaning. I know that you're cringing over there,
I am.
but you can see my point that a strong presidential figure would do well against Donald Trump in a debate.
I think out of the moderates that are in right now, he'd do the best.
Yes.
But I don't think he'd do good. I think he'd do okay. Because I don't trust him to be consistently playing what he wants to do. I could very much see Pete fall into the category of kind of being I don't know, making really corny jokes and almost I could see him getting torn up the same way that
Hillary Clinton did.
No, that Chris Christie tore up Marco Rubio in the Republican primaries last time, where he says the same talking points over and over and again, and they just literally Chris Christie or Trump just say why'd you say that again?
Yeah,
you just said that.
That's a really good one.
I could see Buttigieg falling into that trap. He's too inexperienced, I think.
I don't know. I think he's very sharp. He's got he's a lot more clever than a lot of the Democrats.
I wouldn't say he's dumb, but he's very rehearsed, I'd say.
He's very rehearsed. He's very polished, I'd say.
And that's the problem. I think Trump's good against someone who would be very rehearsed.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Bernie's strength is. He's not rehearsed. Bernie just knows things and shouts things.
Yeah.
And has a great time. America's dad.
I would go that far.
Just wait till they add the DY onto the end of that sentence right there.
Oh no, I don't. I really don't want that to happen.
Who do you think would do the worst right now against
Joe Biden?
Yeah, Joe Biden would.
I think Joe Biden. I mean, we've seen him on the campaign trail. As soon as he's questioned about something, he sort of turns into this weird macho man character. He asks people to punch him and fight him.
He gets very angry. He
tells
people not to vote for him.
Yeah, it's just very odd. Yeah. I feel like in a debate scenario with Donald Trump, that's against average American voters. Against Donald Trump, he will lose his cool and he will look awful, and he will single-handedly lose the general election if he came across him.
The man can barely form coherent sentences.
I think he's lost it. I mean,
he's on his way out. I mean, it's a shame.
No, I don't think he's on his way out. I don't think he's dead. But I think he's losing his marbles. I think that he's no longer the candidate we hoped for.
I feel really bad for Biden because there was I think it was one of Obama's main advisors when Biden was considering running. He spoke
in 2016 or 2020.
2020.
Okay,
and he spoke to him and he said, "Do you really want to end your political career
on a loss
in an Iowa hotel, coming third to Bernie Sanders?" Was the exact quote.
Oof.
And he ends up coming fourth.
Yeah, that was a really poor showing. And he even flew out of New Hampshire early before the vote was cast. And he didn't go to Nevada. He went to South Carolina. That's where he's putting his
donors are dropping out. He, the other night in one of his talks, he said, "My name's Joe Biden. I'm running for Senate. Maybe don't vote for me, but give me a chance." He said the exact sentence last night or the other night before.
Yikes! That's shocking.
It's sad to watch. It is a shame, but he would probably be the worst. How do you think Klobuchar would be able to handle it?
I was literally just thinking about that. I think that she would have the problem of look at the bad man.
Yeah.
Against Donald Trump, and I don't know if this is just me, in my personal opinion, but I find her character quite snarky, and she doesn't seem very presidential.
Yeah,
Elizabeth Warren seems presidential. She has got her stuff together. She's got a plan. Versus Amy Klobuchar seems mean and mean-spirited.
She has a lot of stories of basically abusing her.
Yeah,
stuff,
and throwing binders at them.
Yeah. Oh no. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I think that makes a difference because a lot of the time people sort of they're overly critical of president candidates who are more aggressive, which I don't like at all because I want my president candidates to be aggressive. So I'd say like when a Warren, especially the last debate, not the one last night, but the previous one, when she's aggressive, she does it in a good way. She's really well put together, really direct, and it's hard hitting.
Yeah.
When Klobuchar is aggressive, I would agree, she comes off as a bit more snarky. I think that probably makes sense.
And also, she's a candidate that's out of the Democrats most likely in her Senate record to vote with Republicans.
Oh, yeah.
And you just think... We're coming out of a Donald Trump presidency, hopefully. I mean,
fingers crossed.
Do we really want a Democrat that sides with Republicans so often? I'm all for bipartisanship. As I think that's a great way to get stuff done and get through the gridlock of Congress. But do we really want that from our president?
Bipartisanship as a cost, no, not to the extent of having two Republicans as candidates.
It's just, and then we've rounding out the 7. Oh no, that's 8.
Bloomberg. How do you think Bloomberg would beat Trump?
How do I think
Bloomberg somehow won?
No.
Do you think he'd be able to handle it?
No. I think in a debate he'd be okay because they've both got the same problems.
Do they? I would say they have these opposite problems.
No, they've got like women putting cases against them like that. Yeah.
Bloomberg has more.
Yeah, Bloomberg has more, but
64.
like Donald Trump's not going to go into the debate and be like, he has more women saying that
To be fair, he did it against Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. Do you remember when he brought in the Clinton accusers? Because his whole point was like, I've just been accused of making bad jokes. Look what Bill Clinton's done.
Oh, well, I don't think Bloomberg would do very well
he can't talk.
I mean, no, I'd be really, really, really sad if that was who the Dems...
If I was in America and it was Bloomberg versus Trump, I wouldn't vote for Bloomberg. I'd vote for a third party. Because I could be convinced to vote for someone like Pete. I wouldn't be happy about it, and I'd still be annoyed.
Yeah, but at least he's a firm Democrat.
Yeah, I could be convinced.
I mean, his policies are not that far away from the Obama.
I could be convinced. That's the thing. Bloomberg, I could never be convinced because it's the same. They're the same person in my mind.
Yeah, and he's gonna keep the status quo of billionaires buying up.
Yeah. He's an
authoritarian.
He's an oligarchical authoritarian, and I despise him with every fibre of my being.
Okay, but like to play devil's advocate, Michael Bloomberg has got a fantastic record on gun control as well as climate change. So I know that you hate him, and I don't like him either.
No, of course,
but we have to be let's be honest. He's got a great record on.
He's got some good things there, but my issues with him, and even though I would probably say I don't think his gun control record's that great, because I think his line was more in terms of banning guns, and personally. I think I'd be all in favor of like background checks and those sort of things. Yeah. But taking guns away from people, I wouldn't be a fan of.
I don't know. I think that depends. It depends on the state. For example, like your mayor of New York City.
Yeah.
I believe guns shouldn't be on the street in New York City. That's. I understand in rural Vermont or Nevada or Montana that you need your guns. That's fine. I understand. Or even if you've got houses across the country in Washington State, I don't know. But New York City, there's no need for guns. The only people that should be carrying guns are police officers.
My main problem is just his stop and search and his redlining policy and that sort of thing.
As soon as I said police officers, I remembered. I was like, oh, damn, Bloomberg.
He ran one of the least successful stop and search programs in all time because they're universally unsuccessful, and particularly his.
Yeah.
It was something like, I can't remember the exact numbers, but basically out of all the stoppages across 1 year, they found one gun. There's thousands of people. There's not found one gun.
But the thing is, it's not even
one gun.
It's not even a question of efficiency. It's like it's a popular thing. Like lots of Republicans and mostly Republicans actually like policies like stop and search because they give the illusion of security theater. I mean, that's why they have the TSA. The TSA are woefully inept at catching bombs and things like that. The TSA they run tests to see whether the TSA will pick them up, and they 95% of the time nothing goes through.
It is a crazy thing.
We've got Tom Steyer and Tulsi Gabbard.
I forgot about them. Tulsi Gabbard's barely in it now. She's just having fun.
Why? Why is she still in this? Why?
I think she's just trying to make a point. I genuinely think she's just trying to make a point.
And what would that point be?
I think her point is just like foreign policy number one, and then sort of just being like that sort of, I guess, bipartisan, but not in like a, oh, here's what Republicans want, here's what Democrats want, I'm going to be in the middle. Bipartisan in the sense that she supports policies that even Republican supporters like Medicare for all.
Yeah.
But also has, more affinities towards, like, certainly like foreign policy, for example. Like, every voter, no matter what party you're in, pretty much wants to end wars. And I think that's kind of what she's trying to do, trying to make a new wave of, I guess, centrism in a sense. Less about politics in like its left and right form, but more about politics as, here's what the people want. Here's what I'm going to represent.
A more direct.
Yeah, more populist, I would say, to a sense.
Yeah, she's definitely a populist.
Yeah.
Tom Steyer,
another outshadowed billionaire.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would have done okay if Bloomberg hadn't gotten in. I think that he comes across as a very nice guy.
He seems like a nice guy. He was really nice to Bernie.
Yeah,
which
he
is
was really. Yeah, I mean, he seems to like Bernie as much as he's a billionaire. He actually has got very left-wing policies.
He does come across as a very nice guy.
Yeah, I'd say the ranking of the most left-wing goes Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, and then Tom Steyer, which is...
Oh, no, Tulsi's second.
Yeah, but I'm not considering her in the race. I mean, let's just be honest.
All right, fair enough then. Fine. That's probably right, to be fair.
Because he's actually... His policies are very, very left-wing.
He's got good climate change policies.
Yeah,
his work, his rights policies
especially.
aren't actually that bad, to be fair to him.
Yeah, and his taxation is quite progressive.
Pretty good.
Which is surprising for a billionaire.
It's actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's nice to see that some people who are affluent also like to give back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right then, that was a lovely little roundup of all the candidates.
Yeah.
A nice little introduction for the next parts we're going to be going into.
Okay.
We have to go to our first song now, Joel.
Okay.
This is by Billie Eilish, and it's No Time to Die.
Ooh, the Bond one.
It is indeed the Bond one.
Nice.
Enjoy, everyone. Memoriam. I have a list of everyone who's dropped out so far, and we are going to cry and celebrate over who's gone. Who's gone and should they be forgotten?
Exactly.
I actually made a YouTube video about this. It's
really?
It's on the channel. Yeah.
Okay.
So actually, I have things to say.
Ooh.
So I'll ask you first, and then I will scream from my end. First song I have on my list: Kamala Harris. Who's Kamala Harris, Joel?
Who's Kamala Harris? She's the Democratic senator from California.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And she had, at the beginning of this process, a lot of fire behind her campaign. At one point, it looked as though she might even win the nomination.
She was meant to be one of the big names.
Yeah, definitely top three. And then it sort of all went and petered out because her past came out about being a tough criminal prosecutor.
Emphasis on tough.
Tough. And then,
cruel, I would say.
Yeah, and she was just very... She was very, very strong, as a candidate in terms of how she presented herself.
She positioned herself more as like sort of the centrist wing, but the kind of the anti-Trumper, and she's not an awful speaker. Like she had her actual she's actual talking is actually pretty good, to be fair to her.
Yeah.
What she says, I think, is often not great, but and I guess what came up from her was basically exposed by Tulsi Gabbard when basically she tanked her campaign.
Oh yeah, that debate, I remember.
Because Kamala Harris has one of the worst records out of anyone who's been on that stage in terms of I can't remember, it's been so long ago. She laughed about banning marijuana because her Republican opponent wanted to. He wanted to do the opposite. He wanted to legalize marijuana. And she laughed about it and was like, oh, that's ridiculous. Yeah. She made a law which meant that if your kid didn't go to school, you go to prison. So she imprisoned single mothers from poor neighborhoods, so then their kids couldn't go to school even more because they didn't have a parent around because they were single parents, and that just perpetuated the cycle.
It was just a very, very tough criminal prosecutor career.
She instituted a policy to try and increase prison population specifically for free labor. To improve things.
My word.
Yep. Horrible person. Not a fan. But despite all this, there was a very funny moment she had on stage. The Twitter moment.
Oh yes.
I brought it up in the break, and you didn't remember it. But you seem to have a face of joy now.
Now I remember it.
Take your minds back to a simpler time. A few months ago, we're on a debate stage. There's 20 people. Ooh, they're all talking.
They all have 15 seconds to speak.
Everyone except Biden and I guess Kamala has 15 seconds. They have half an hour.
Yeah.
Suddenly the camera.
That's not Biden. That's not CNN. That's not CNN's fault. It's only because Biden couldn't physically speak.
He was only supposed to have 15 seconds, but he couldn't get the words out, so they just keep going till he finishes his sentence. No. So they pan over to Kamala. She's looking strong and determined. I wonder what she's going to talk about. This is her moment to shine on the big stage. She turns to Elizabeth and she says, Trump is very mean on Twitter. How could we have a president who says these horrible things on Twitter? Why won't Elizabeth Warren join me in trying to get him banned from Twitter? Why won't she be as strong on Trump as I am by trying to get him banned on Twitter? That was exactly, not verbatim, that was exactly what she said. She called on Elizabeth Warren to join her crusade to try and get Trump banned on Twitter.
Oh no, the moment I was remembering,
what were you remembering?
Was when she went after Joe Biden and some of his policies back in the day that weren't exactly progressive.
Oh, that was good as well.
And then she goes, that girl was me. I mean, it was a powerful moment, but then the internet has this magical ability to turn everything that is nice and pure about the world into something so funny.
Because I remember why it became a meme was because she said that and people were like, oh, that's actually kind of impressive. It's kind of cheesy, but it's impressive. But then it basically came out that in her thing, she'd agreed she liked a lot of the policies that he kind of did, which she kind of brought up. Not segregation, obviously desegregation, which Biden has an awful record on. But things around like busing and that sort of thing, where she'd been like...
Oh, it was the busing thing, I remember.
The busing thing, and then like it turns out she'd been favourable to that in the past, and it was like it got a bit weird.
Well, Biden's record on I mean, desegregation, I'm not sure about, but his general civil rights record is not too bad.
No, he
does a lot. He did a lot of good stuff for the African American community.
You know, Bernie was.
Yeah, I know. Bernie was arrested. Bernie was arrested at the age of 21. So
absolute king.
Yeah, that's pretty testament to that.
Right.
Yeah.
That sounds like Kamala. Boring. Could have done well.
It was basically how she was a bit flip floppy on policies, and she didn't seem honest.
Yeah, bad decisions made. I think bad tactics. And just a little bit embarrassing. Next up, another one of the main supposed frontrunners, Beto O'Rourke.
I mean, what can we say about Beto O'Rourke? He came into the race with such determination, and I kind of miss him because he brought such life to the party. I mean, I don't think the interview where he decided where he was going to run with Vanity Fair, where he said that I was born to do it.
I was born to do it.
Helped his campaign.
Oh no. He was Pete before Pete was Pete. That's what Beto was.
No. Pete is quite a modest guy, like in terms of his...
But Beto, when he actually talks, normally is. It was only near the end of his cycle when he was like, okay, I've got to start shooting shots, which is the same as Buttigieg. I mean, the last few debates, Pete has been anything but modest. He's been snidey and pernickety, I would say, at certain candidates. He's the only one who's going to criticise Bloomberg, to be fair. But he's starting to lean more...
That's because he's going to wait for Bloomberg's money to fund his campaign.
He's got to wait for that sweet, sweet money. No, Beto was an odd one, I think, because he was kind of the same, I think, potentially as like Kamala, but like really early on, where they were supposed to be more of the progressive wing, because like Beto painted himself as a progressive against Ted Cruz, and he did really well from it. Like he nearly won in Texas.
I mean, it was only 2% away from flipping Texas in a Senate
against Ted Cruz,
election.
one of the most established
Republicans
in America. But then when he joined the race, he flip flopped and he kind of pushed a bit more centrist in a way. He started taking more like corporate money, and that was when he started turning off a bit. And then it was his gun thing. He said, "We're going to take your guns away," and that instantly loses you.
And the worst thing for him in terms of that is that he might have been able to forge a career on the national stage. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, he says, "I'm going to take your guns away." As someone who's from Texas, that means that he will probably never win in Texas again.
That's the thing. It's one of those cases of someone sort of almost like shooting their shot too early. And they've blown the whole thing because by going, I think if he'd gone in, done a respectable performance, and gone, all right, fair enough. I know when I'm not wanted, I'll step back. He could have done very well in Texas.
He could have been flipping that seat right now,
but. He did. He went for his Hail Marys. He skateboarded on stage.
Oh, wow.
He said he was going to take people's guns away, and then he lost all his credibility.
It's kind of funny because Kamala Harris and Beto O'Rourke going into this, but even before this all started, they were seen by the Democratic establishment as the future of the Democratic Party. And we've come out with Bernie Sanders as the front runner, who is completely not what the Democratic establishment wants. And then Pete Buttigieg, who's come out from nowhere as the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and he is what the Democratic establishment now want as a leader.
Yeah, I remember in the video I made, I described Beto O'Rourke's journey as an artificial rise and a very realistic fall.
Ooh, that's so good.
Thank you. Yeah. I was actually very proud of that line because the media definitely there, like, really popped him out. They loved him.
Yeah,
They're like, here we go. But then as soon as he actually faced public scrutiny, he was instantly people were like, oh, he's boring. We don't need him.
I mean, he's also part of the Democratic Party's wish of or fantasy of one day winning Texas.
Yeah.
That's their big thing right now. Is that, and they will do it eventually.
Yeah,
because of demographic changes,
demographic changes.
And that's not necessarily just because of the Latino population, but also because of lots of millennials from New York, Chicago, and California moving into Texas as the economy booms there.
Bernie Sanders ran a rally the other day, which was 12,000 people strong in Texas.
Yeah,
he is. I would say that he has a chance of actually swinging that seat purely on policy, because his policies are popular there. From that controversial statement, I can see Joel wincing. We'll quickly move on. Marianne Williamson.
I mean, I don't think the crystals aligned on that one.
I love that. I love that meme so much. She just couldn't harness the power of love hard enough.
For those who don't know who Marianne Williamson is, she is not dead. She is. She's like a television personality, a healer. Yeah. She was Oprah's friend.
That's what she seems like.
Yeah. She just decided that she was going to run for the presidential.
She's very much that like 40-year-old mom who believes in healing crystals.
Yeah, it was a bit odd.
There's a great clip of her saying like, well, Trump likes to harness hate. You know what, Trump? I will meet you on that battlefield, and I will harness love, and love will win. And it makes me laugh every time. It's so funny.
Yeah.
She endorsed Bernie though, so she's fine in my books.
Wow.
She's fine in my books. But I see her like I don't dislike her. I just find her really funny.
Yeah.
And I find clowning on her hilarious.
But I think that. Good on her. I mean, she wanted to do something. She did it. She knew she wasn't going to win.
She didn't do that badly. To be fair. Like she didn't make an embarrassment of herself.
Did she make it to the debates?
Yeah, she was on a couple. That's when she got to say, "I will harness love."
Oh yeah. So I mean, she's good on her.
Yeah, she did well. I actually think I was like, you know what, that was nice.
Yeah,
that was nice.
It's a nice little moment in American politics, and we don't usually have those.
It's nice to have some funny times with someone.
Yeah, and someone who genuinely is positive about life. I like that.
It was sweet.
Everything is good.
John Delaney.
Oh, he's one of those generic white candidates that you could just interchange, like Eric Swalwell, Tim Ryan.
So it's so true. They're all the same.
Isn't Eric Swalwell the one with the like?
I can't even remember.
No, he's the one who has got this gaffe where he apparently passed wind on TV and then lied about it.
Oh, okay. I think I might remember that.
It's quite funny.
Yeah. John Delaney is one thing that stands out from the other like centrist white boys. You know what that is?
He's bald.
You know, that's one of them. Do you know what the other one is? He is extremely buff. Google him. He is.
Oh yeah. I remember him. Yeah.
He is. You look at his face. It doesn't look right. He is freakishly.
He looks like a white Mr. Muscle. Wait, is Mr. Muscle white?
Mr. Muscle is white, isn't he?
Whoa.
He is freakishly muscular for a man who has his face. For a man that looks like a scared gerbil at all times. he is terrifyingly large.
Tim Ryan is also that. He's like a white dude, but he's also like he turned up to the debate stage beforehand to look at it and stuff like that. He was wearing his hat. He was wearing his hat on backwards. You just think, what are you doing?
I've seen the photos. We'll get to Tim Ryan later. No, but John Delaney was like your standard centrist guy. Like, Bernie's too far left and whatever. Trump is too far right. We need a moderate to unite the country. Yeah. There's only one person who can do that, and that's me. No, it's only me. I am the only one who can do this. I mean,
they were so generic, I'm surprised they didn't mess up their own names there.
In the video I made, I genuinely forgot who John Delaney was. I tried to bring him up, but I said Tim Kaine. Then I said...
Tim Kaine was in it?
No. I was trying to remember John Delaney's name.
Okay.
I said, who did I say? I said Rob Brydon. I said, that's wrong. Then I said Tim Kaine. I said, that's wrong. Then I said Tim Delaney. I was like,
that's getting closer.
And then eventually, I didn't say the name. I tried to put a photo of him. I was like, it's this guy, by the way. Just like, he's the most forgettable candidate.
Yeah. I would like to clarify my statement. Mr. Clean is white, I believe.
Oh, okay. He is just Mr. Clean then, but like sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Next up, Tim Ryan. Remember Tim Ryan?
Baseball cap. That's it. No, he wasn't. He wasn't bald, was he?
No, he wasn't bald. He just had grey hair.
Eric Swalwell had great hair.
Tulsi Gabbard slapped him up in a debate, shut him down really easily.
Yeah.
On foreign policy, especially, he just couldn't handle it.
Tulsi Gabbard is like the merchant of death for a lot of candidates.
She's the best. I love her. She's amazing. She's really, really good at just looking at someone and going, "Yeah, you're done."
Yeah.
Because she's a great debater, and like that's what I always said. I wasn't sure how great she is at making her own case. Yeah. But she's incredible at destroying other people. Yeah, she's so good at it. That's why I want her to drop out and endorse Bernie, and then just become an attack dog, and then just
become Bernie's attack dog. Yeah, like be the leader of the internet trolls that Bernie has.
Oh, shut up!
Yeah,
you and your Bernie bro narrative.
No, I mean it's true.
It's not true. No more so than any other candidate.
That's not true.
Bernie has a greater online support base. And therefore, he has more people who troll people online.
I believe that's a higher percentage in Bernie's camp.
And you know what I'd also say? If you can't handle a couple mean tweets on Twitter, get off Twitter. That's what I'd say. Look at Nina. Go on like his surrogates like Nina Turner and. But
that's not what the Bernie campaign is saying. They're saying that they're going to try and get rid of these.
Because they're not official people. They're just random people.
Yeah, I know, but like your thing is if you can't handle the pressure on Twitter.
Yeah.
But like even Bernie's saying that's not very nice. We shouldn't do this.
I don't care.
Okay.
It's Twitter. No one cares about Twitter. No one's on Twitter. Like a small percentage of people are on Twitter. It's the worst attack thing I've ever seen in anyone ever. To be like, oh, your supporters are mean. It's like, oh, shut up. Lame. No one cares about being nice anymore.
Okay.
Julian Castro.
Obama's former housing and urban development secretary. For even though he was only in that role for a very limited time. But he tried to impart Obama's glow on himself, like many candidates try to do.
Yeah, he did the speech patterns. They had the sort of same hits, the sort of saying a lot but saying nothing. Like, we need to unite people, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of promise because he was a Latino candidate.
He wasn't too bad in the debates.
He wasn't too bad in the debates. He was quite polished. I think that he
wasn't terrible.
He has a good future ahead of him. I just don't think that this was the right race.
No,
for him.
yeah. So I think it's a lot of candidates. I think because it seems so open and because like the only real like person that was seen as like a runner confirmed were Biden and Bernie, which a lot of people think they could beat. Yeah. There's so many people who joined who shouldn't have yet. Yeah. And that's people like Julian Castro.
Yeah.
But to be fair, we wouldn't be talking about them if they hadn't. So they've sort of given. I think Julian Castro hasn't done too badly out of this.
I think he'll have a good, maybe a Senate career.
He's got himself a name now.
Yeah, for sure.
He didn't embarrass himself like some other candidates. It was a pretty clean time. Cory Booker.
I mean,
there's not much to say about Cory Booker.
No, he goes into the Delaney Swalwell.
Tried to be Obama.
Yeah, he tried to be Obama.
He really tried to be Obama. It didn't work.
No,
because he wasn't amazing in debates. He's not a very good speaker.
He wasn't. Yeah, I mean, he was.
His speeches are okay, but he's not a good debater. He's not sharp.
I think the funniest moment from him in this entire campaign was he was standing next to Beto O'Rourke in one of the debates, and then Beto's first question, he comes out and he answers it in Spanish, and you just see Cory Booker's face in the background, terrorized.
He's just like, what is this man doing? Why?
But it's fantastic.
Oh god, it's so great. And I remember that face actually. Yeah. It's very good. And last one, Yang.
You see, Andrew Yang is probably the most interesting candidate that has dropped out. And I think that when we look back upon this race in the future, and we are, well, not when we look back upon it, when robots do. But the campaign in 2016, we saw that Bernie Sanders brought Medicare for all as a main policy idea, and now loads of candidates have adopted it.
It's essentially...
Will UBI be the same in 20 years or 15 years?
It could be.
We'll see. But he was a fantastic candidate. A lot of his policies on automation and the future of work are very important, and I think that they should be listened to.
Big fan.
And he's definitely got a big platform now to spread his message.
I mean, he's now a CNN contributor. Yeah. He said himself, he'll be back.
No, I think he's a great candidate.
I think he'll be around for a while, and I think he really could be a good force in anyone's cabinet, because he is not only has he got good ideas, he's also a really good speaker. He seems like a really friendly guy.
Yeah.
He's one of the three candidates who polls best amongst Republican voters.
Yeah.
It's Bernie, Tulsi, and him. Those are the three. and he will. I think he'll be around for a while. His ideas will be around for a while as well. And I mean, even not UBI, like his policies on opioids and drugs, basically like legalizing or decriminalizing all of them. That was a big one he did. He got
opioids and drugs. He wants to decriminalize opioids.
Yeah, but as in rather than making them illegal, having them like more regulated in terms of like, and basically solving the crisis in a sense.
I'm not sure that would solve the crisis.
At least bringing that issue into the forefront.
Yeah,
he got people like Cory Booker, Beto O'Rourke to start talking about these things.
Yeah, and getting Cory Booker to talk about pharmaceuticals is always going to be an interesting one because of all his funding.
The number one receiver of big pharma money. I thought I had another candidate written down, but I didn't because Tim Ryan is so forgetful. I wrote his name down twice. I wrote it down again next to it.
That's fantastic.
Because I was like, I forgot about Tim Ryan.
That's really good.
Next song. This is the artist Young T and Bugsy with Bully Beef featuring Fredo. Enjoy. Hello and welcome back to the last segment of the American Politics episode. Joel, how are you?
I'm very well.
That's good. I don't actually care. Moving on. I'm sorry. Right then. Joel.
I'm not Joe Biden just yet.
Joe. Suddenly, there's a crisis in America. Everything's falling apart. It's crashing down. Every candidate has been assassinated. All of them. Every single person who could possibly be president has been assassinated. Your phone.
So that's the entire American population.
Yes, your phone starts ringing. Oh, what's this? Oh, hello. It's the Americans. Joel, we need you. Get over here. You're president. What are you doing?
So you gave me this one to prepare. So this is not gonna be off the cuff.
Mine will be very much off the cuff.
But I think the first thing I would do if I had 3 things to do would be looking at the tax code. I know that's super boring, but that's how it's gonna be. The few things I would do there is reversing tax cuts under Trump because operating at a $1 trillion deficit, nearly $1 trillion deficit, is not feasible, which goes towards a $21 trillion federal debt. This is during a time of economic boom. Like, there is no need to be using this much money. You should save that capacity and save that debt capacity for when you are in a crisis and a recession such that you can use positive fiscal policy. It's ridiculous that is what's happening under a Republican president who are meant to be good economic managers, but that's something else. Tax increases on the super rich, that seems like an obvious thing to do. You don't even have to increase it that much to get a lot out of them because there is so much wealth at the very top. As wealth taxes as well as estate taxes such that they cannot profiteer into the next one. And that is no good as long as you as long as you still have the loopholes in place. So closing up those loopholes such that people like Jeff Bezos and Amazon pay more than $0 in federal income. No, federal taxes on Amazon.
Perfect.
Which is ridiculous. So, do you want to go with your first one?
Sure. For me, it's Medicare for all. Number one.
Yeah, that's with me.
Yep. That's a classic. That's a standard. Medicare for all. Made that happen. That's pretty simple. Wealth tax is on my list as well.
Okay.
Love a good wealth tax. I said the main area we probably disagree with because I have loads of other ones, but like the more random.
Foreign policy.
Yeah, foreign policy.
Yeah, I know.
Foreign policy is my big one. I would scale back American intervention in foreign nations.
Yeah.
I would leave Afghanistan after a period of time in terms of like getting the UN to basically following UN rules and having their troops there in terms of like peacekeepers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like as Bernie said, I want to leave these countries, but I don't want to do it by a tweet at 3 a.m.
I mean,
do it by official channels.
I think the idea is great. I do think that Americans should stop getting themselves into wars that they can't win. But leaving Afghanistan right now is a pretty terrible idea because if you leave, the Taliban comes through. I mean, they've already got so much territory controlled. They're just waiting out the Americans at this point because they know that eventually Trump will leave, or if Bernie Sanders wins, Bernie Sanders will leave, and therefore Afghanistan will fall back into the hands of the Taliban. It's a difficult one because the UN, like the idea of putting the UN peacekeepers in, is a great idea because that's more of a legitimate force and probably be more warmly welcomed by the Afghan people.
100%.
But there aren't enough UN troops to if they deployed them all there.
America doesn't have that many in there right now.
And it's got like over 10,000, no?
It's less than that. They've been decreasing it. It took
Well,
a few thousand out recently, to be fair. But still, it's not a crazy amount. And my main thing would be cutting down drone strikes.
yeah.
They are
But
overwhelmingly unsuccessful.
well, let's go back onto healthcare.
Healthcare.
Bernie Sanders has got a plan.
Yep.
Elizabeth Warren has got a plan.
Meh.
Ish. They're both fully costed. Well, Bernie Sanders he's released how much he's going to be. He did that yesterday.
It saves money.
It does save money.
Saves $5 trillion.
It's extremely expensive, but it does
Saves money.
It does save money.
$5 trillion.
Do you think it's too sudden?
Nope.
I think that maybe a transitional period would be better.
Nope.
Okay. I just don't think that healthcare is a huge issue, and I don't think that it's possible to get it done within.
Let me put it like this, Joel. You've been let's say you're in a desert. You've been stranded there for like a few days, and you're starving. Someone comes up to you and they go, "Oh my God, we found you. We have food in this van. You're starving. Oh, we won't give you some now though. That's too sudden. You can have this little bit, and then eventually you're going to starve to death because they're not giving you enough." If it's such an awful problem and a hideously morally repugnant issue in America such as healthcare, I think it needs to be solved immediately, because transition period sounds nice and it probably would be cleaner, but it saves lives.
Okay. I'm not going to get onto this now, but if there's another opportunity for us to talk about Bernie Sanders and his proposals, then I'd like to get into the meat of that.
A bonus episode where we go
bonus episode,
an in-depth dive
onto Bernie.
Ooh,
and then the last thing I would like to say on what I would do as president would be education reform in the United States. Not only making sure that people have access to affordable preschool and childcare, but also making sure that university degrees are at a reasonable cost, especially those that the United States needs. So things like in STEM subjects, making sure that they're reasonably priced to encourage people to go into the subjects of the future that will lead to America's economic rise. I wouldn't necessarily go for universal debt relief, but I don't think that's personally fair on people that have. Hey, listen. I don't think it's fair on people that have worked so hard before going to college, or have signed themselves up to the military to pay for their college, only to have other people pay out for them, or people who didn't go to college because they couldn't afford it. Either way, working beforehand or working shifts. Maybe a lump sum tax of $30,000, which is the average amount of student debt for everyone who went to college, and lower, and no interest rate payments. I was doing Bernie arms there.
I love the Bernie arms. We're gonna have to have another episode of this.
Yeah,
there is so much more for us to shout about aggressively at each other.
This was very tight.